Hello, good morning and welcome to New Forest Morphs. As you can see, our power is restored. What time did it get restored, Jared?
Was it at 12 o'clock?
It was nearly
11:30,
12. It was 11:30, 12. It went on from 5 a.m. on Saturday morning till virtually midnight that day. So that's a good 18 hours? I think it's at least maybe 19 hours where we had to just manage our backup situation to keep these snakes protected. And Jared and I were just like in and out of here quite regularly, weren't we? Just keeping an eye on things and twigging things. And it's been a massive test for us, hasn't it, Jared, if we're honest? And when we thought we had a decent backup system, we realised that it still needs to be adjusted, it still needs to be improved. And what we want to do is first of all thank all our friends and those people that have given us love and support during this very challenging time. I want to reassure everyone that our snakes are doing fine. In fact, in some ways they're doing even better than fine, because this morning, Jared, I got up at 7 to start cleaning, and I noticed that quite a few of our sub-adults, adults and hatchlings wanted to spend some time with me, and I actually found that because we hadn't fed them, there was less cleaning. So I've literally been checking every single snake really carefully to make sure they're all okay, and I actually think that they've actually improved in terms of their well-being, which is really crazy. You'd think that a drop down to 72 to 73 degrees would give them a little bit of a shock, which I think it probably did give them a minor shock, didn't it, Jared? But now that they've had everything restored to them and they're appreciating their heat spots, they're appreciating the extra love and attention we've given them to help them through this really difficult cold spell, the bond between us and the snakes has gone to the next level. And even our girls that are over here that are preparing for breeding, they came out, the dreamsicle girl came out and she just wanted to spend time with me, and I spent a good 5-10 minutes just loving her and she loved me back. So something's going on, Jared. I'm not sure what it is, but there's been a real interesting change. That's almost as though every snake's clock has been reset. Did you feel that, Jared? Did you sense that or not?
It's pretty normal to me. But
yeah.
You were the one that took care of all those ones down there.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, I've just been through virtually the whole collection, and you helped. I mean, you helped with the other part of the collection, and what I'm looking at is really relaxed snakes that are happy, that are just, I don't know, there's almost like a degree of appreciation for what we've done for them, knowing that they've came close to dropping down that low, and then we've restored all their goodness. And I think the other thing that's going on is because we've fasted, they're fasting as well. There's less digestion going on, there seems to be more want to be interacting with us. So I thought that was really interesting. But I think I wanted to also take this opportunity to really emphasize what we've learned from this experience, Jared. But before we do that, I just wanted to show a couple of extra tricks that we went through on Saturday to help keep the warmth in. Jared, you came up with this idea of the extra insulation at the back window.
Yeah, so there was one at the top as well, but we've taken it off so that we can get a bit of airflow.
Yeah.
But a lot of cold air comes in through a window, so I put the insulation boxes up against it to block a bit of that. I mean, I don't know how much it helped, but
I think it helped a lot, Jared, because it helped to lift the temperatures quite nicely. It got back up to 85 very quickly because we closed down all the cool spots and we'd had both heaters now working correctly. The other thing we've learned is that when you're using extension leads, our generator cut off because we didn't completely uncoil the whole of the extension lead, and it cut off because
halves the efficiency, doesn't it?
It halves the efficiency. So you've also got to check the capacity of your extension leads if you're using extension leads, and our extension leads are about 3,000 watts, aren't they, Jared? But
uncoiled, yeah.
Uncoiled, but if they're coiled, they drop down to as low as 1,000 to 1,500, and because we were pushing 1,500 plus, as soon as those wattage went up, the generator switched off and we couldn't make out because the generator is 1,800 watts. So we've learned that we had to, Jared went for walkabouts and took all the cable out into the garden, didn't you, Jared? And as soon as we'd done that, and what can happen is if you leave your extension lead coiled up, over about half an hour or so, the heat builds up. And it's a fire risk as well, so that's why they say uncoil it completely. And we've learnt that by doing so you can then be able to use the full power the generator can give. Otherwise all the trip switches will go off to stop you from hurting yourself. And so there's lots of built-in safety there, but if you're using an extension lead that doesn't have a trip switch, which people do, it could be a fire risk, and therefore just wanted to put that warning out to people that if they're going to use it. We've got 2, and the reason why we've got 2 is that I was prompted yesterday to buy a 9,000, I think it's a 9,000 watt generator. And let me just show you what it is, Jad. I've got it on my iPad. If I can show you, I don't know if you can see that there. There we go. So it's pretty good value. It's cost me £600. It's coming on Wednesday, Thursday, and I think when you have a situation where you are relying on a £200 generator to help you out, and you realise its limitations, it makes you really focus and think, hang on a minute, we'll use the £200 one as a backup to the backup, and actually use the industrial one as the one that we need. Now I've calculated that we've got 160 animals, each requiring 20 watt mats, which means you need 3,200 watts for your heat mats. And Jad and I, we were thinking that if the generator had more power, we would have actually used, we had our electrician that was fitting our facility, and there is a switch on our electricity box that allows for a generator to kick in without plugging everything in, because there's loads of plugs, isn't there, Jared? So you plug your generator into one switch, you switch that, and all of your power, which is not off the mains, is then replaced by the power of your generator. So that will be once the generator gets going. Now this has got an electric start, Jared. It's got some other facilities in there that I really liked. It's got dual sockets, so you can run 2 extension leads off there, which means that if you have 2 3,000 watt extension leads, you can go up to 6,000 capacity. So even though this has an 8,500 watt capacity, it means that we've always got scope to take it up to 6 if we use 2 of those, Jared. So I was thinking this is going to be a lot better. It runs on petrol for about I think it's 12 hours, 10 to 12 hours, and it's also not very noisy. So the key is it's a low noise generator as well. So I think it's really good, and you can see all the different things on there. It tells you when your oil's low, it tells you when, you know more about than I do, Jared. What facilities do you like to have on your generators?
Well, the whole 2 days experience that I've had, I figured out that I like it to have a high wattage so that you can plug everything in.
Yeah.
I like it to tell me what's wrong if something is wrong.
Yeah.
In advance. Like our one's got an oil light, low oil light that comes on way in advance. So if the oil starts running out, you can put it in hours in advance.
Petrol gauge as well, so you can actually get replacement petrol. We learnt to have some backup petrol now. And the other thing is, you see the humidifiers now going back and working. And then when you're in that situation where you're focused on heat, you forget about humidity. It suddenly dawned on me yesterday that we could have maintained humidity because the humidifier takes very little wattage. We could have plugged that into the generator as well. But
I think cold humidity could be a risk though.
Yeah, so maybe it was a blessing in disguise not doing that, and maybe just get the temps up and then the humidifier kicks in after that point. So we're now back up to about 55.
It definitely was a bum clenching day, that's for sure.
We're up to 60%. So everything is balanced again, and everything seems to be restored. The animals are seen fine, so there's no major issue there. I think for me and Jared it's a learning curve, and I'd rather have a learning curve, a safe learning curve. I think life's all about throwing challenges at us, and then it tests our systems. And there's life's lessons in here that when we are challenged, our character, our integrity, all the virtues that we develop over time are being challenged by all the time. Just as this snake pit is being challenged and the generator is being challenged by the extremities of weather, our lives get bombarded by challenges, don't they? And it's the strength of character, what we learn from. Still going to make mistakes. We made loads of mistakes over the weekend. What we've learned is our snakes are a lot more tolerant than we thought they were, because I was worried getting below 75. It turns out that they can drop down below 60 and still bounce back. You wouldn't want them to go down that low, but they can bounce back. And I remember Billy at Mutation Creation had about 20 snakes delivered that were during the busy time last year, and I think most of you may have seen the video he put out. It's no longer there at the moment, but he was heartbroken because the snakes were coming in frozen. And we're talking frozen, Jared. And I think you saw a clip of that.
Yeah, I watched the whole thing.
It was heart destroying for most of us, and Billy's never had that experience before, and he was drawing upon the community to help him through that experience, and there were some really experienced breeders out there that helped him. And this is what the community is all about. Now, we've had some help ourselves. We've got about 6 or 7 of our subscribers that sent us some lovely messages, and I just want to thank these people for their messages, Jared. If I go back to the messages, Patrick Saunders. What's up, fellas? Sorry to hear about that. I pray that you and your snakes will be okay. And he gave us 3 muscles. You know, when you get muscles from Patrick, it's encouragement. Now, Patrick is a lovely guy. I mean, he supports us and has done for the last 12 months plus. And you know, when you need a little bit of a lift, when you're feeling a bit under pressure, he's the kind of guy you want to be around, because you know he lifts us and he encourages us, and he's really concerned about us. And so we say thank you, Patrick, for your love and your prayers. Hamlin, a very good friend of ours, I mean, he was amazing. He actually was sending me messages on WhatsApp, and he actually did a circuit of an alternative backup source, and he was talking about having batteries lined up and having all these circuitries in place. And I was thinking, wow, I mean, that's Hamlin all over, because he's very much do-it-yourself, fixer-upper. And I just thought it was really generous of him, not only to send me a message on YouTube, but to WhatsApp me personally and send me, he did a diagram, he showed me all the circuits, and I'm thinking, yeah, this is an option that we need to really look at and consider. And it made me think about the importance of having an eco long-term. The generators are good for the short-term fix, but long-term, Jared, I want to go eco-friendly. Maybe have a solar panelled, battery-driven backup system that we're drawing upon wind power and solar power to generate sufficient battery storage that the batteries kick in while we're waiting for the power to be restored. And I don't know what your thoughts are. It will be probably more expensive in the initial investment, but it will be cheaper in the long term, because we'll harness the power to keep our snakes alive, and that might actually reduce our electricity bill in the long term and pay for itself. What are your thoughts on that, Jared?
I think I should have sloped the roof the other way for solar panels, because right now it's sloping towards shadow under the trees.
So we could have put, if we had the roof going this way, we could have put the solar panels up.
Yeah, the sun's over that side, the trees are right there, and it's sloping down to the tree. I mean, we could try.
We've got what we have got is we
extend and we make that an apex, and we no, I'm joking.
No, I think what we can do, Jared, is we don't need to put the solar panels on the roof. I mean, we've got so much land here. We're in about 2.5 acres. We're blessed to be. I mean, the reason why it's interesting, because Kaz and James, and congratulations, by the way, they've had their first lock, Jared.
Nice.
And I think they were saying it's their cinnamon girl and the pastel. I think they're going for pastel cinnies, which would be lovely. And we've got a pastel cinny, haven't we? We've got a couple from last year that are doing really well. So congratulations. But both James and Kaz sent their love to us, and Kaz came up with a really practical idea, which is for most people that have their snakes in their home, she said their backup is their central heating system, Jared.
Yeah. Which
makes complete sense. If you've got good control. Now, we don't have central heating in here, but it's making me wonder whether we get our plumber over and plumb in some central heating.
What, some radiators?
We'll need to get radiators, but we've got to take the gas supply from the house to here, and you know, you've got an awful lot of pipe to lay down. So I'm going to speak to the plumber and see whether that might be an idea. So that might be another thing to consider, so thank you. But for people that have facilities out in remote places like us, you've got to really look at generators and other things that you can do. But thank you for that, that was really helpful. In terms of, let's see if there's anything else. Now Ed at Racket Ralph's, he said, I hope all is okay with you, matey. And then he was giving us a little bit of background to what he was studying on temperatures, and he was saying he believes that in the wild, the ball pythons, they have to get used to average temperatures, and the average temperatures can be as low as 70 degrees Fahrenheit, he was saying. So these ball pythons, although they don't go into full hibernation, they learn to adjust. And what we've learned here is that they go into semi-hibernation. Because why do they do that, Chad?
Well, they just store their energy. When it gets cold, they just don't move, and they store their energy.
Yeah, and they ball up, and they stay on the heat spots, and they conserve as much energy as they can. So that was interesting. So it was nice to have Ed give us reassurance from his studies that if the temps do drop down as low as 70, it's not the end of the world, which is kind of really good to know that, because I think we do sometimes worry. We've invested so much time, money and effort into this collection that you don't want something that's like extreme weather writing off all that hard work and time and losing your animals and the love that you have for them. So he's got a backup system. He's got his snakes in his house at the moment. He said he would be using his central heating as well. But if the central heating goes down, if you have say you have gas supply that stops, Jared, we're relying on these external companies to provide us with gas and electricity. But imagine if there was a disaster somewhere and gas supply was cut off. So what Ed has, he has a wood burner stove. Yeah. So a lot of people have wood burners as backups as well, which then keep the system going. And the other person that gave us a lot of love was David Carp, which, by the way, I've just subscribed to your channel. I really enjoy your fishing. Now, he's a carp fisherman, and Jared and I like a bit of carp fishing, don't we, Jared? And so thank you, David, for your love and support. And it was just really lovely to get 24 comments on that video and to feel the love and support of our community. But getting back to what we've learned, Jared, is there anything else you've learned from this experience that you want to share with us?
I think the biggest thing is not to over panic. Obviously be a little bit worried about your animals, but don't panic. And I think one of the biggest things is to make sure whatever warmth is in it, you keep in there. So if you need to get in the facility, open and shut the door really quick. Windows all shut, anything shut that's allowing cold in, and just block it all out.
Yeah. Now you also gave me an idea, Jared, that we've got these that we use
for shipping the animals. Yeah.
So how many of these have we got, Jared?
I think we've got about 30.
So 30 hand warmers. Now you've got to be careful. Some hand warmers are very hot and they can damage your snakes. And the snakes are much more tolerant on a drop in temperature than they are in exceeding temperature upwards. Which also leads me on to another future discussion point, because we've got friends living in the tropics that have extreme heat problems to deal with, and how you deal with that. And obviously air conditioning is one way of dealing with it. But how would you deal with extreme heat, Jared?
Air conditioning.
Air conditioning. Problem with air conditioning is it sucks out all your humidity. And that's what Rob was saying, because he's in the tropics, and he's saying that he's got to be very careful that you don't draw out all the humidity. And now what I've found is that since we put the ambient temperature up in here, I've had to increase the humidifier up to level 3 to maintain 60%. So we've got more water going into a hotter atmosphere. So the snakes still get warm humidity, but if you don't up the humidity when you've got extra heat, ambient heat, you end up burning that water, gets burnt out, and it never reaches your snakes, and you have low humidity. So the key is that if you're going to up your ambient temperatures to protect your snakes, you've also got to up the level of humidity that goes with that. Otherwise you're going to have low humidity, Jared. So I've learned something about fine-tuning that. So I think maybe in the tropics, maybe they should consider, if they're going to use air conditioning to reduce the temperature spikes, they've also then got to bring in humidifiers to restore the humidity as well. So they might have to juggle that side. Anything else on frozen conditions, Jared, that we've learned?
Seems like you have a whole list of them.
Well, we're coming back to these hand warmers. So how are we going to use these to help us as a backup to the backup?
I think as like a, if everything goes down, you can crack one of them open, put it at the back of the rub.
Yeah.
Not inside the rub, but at the back, and then it should give a little bit of warmth coming through that back spot. That should.
Problem is, will that still allow you to shut your rubs and be snake tight?
Should be, because if you look at the rubs, you've got these things that stick out, so you just put it in the middle of that.
Yeah.
And you'll be fine.
They're quite small. Now you can get, rather than get hand warmers, you can actually get reptile warmers that are safe for reptiles. That these can go up to like 200 plus. I mean, they can be really hot, and therefore people have taped them onto boxes and they've dropped onto the snake and they've killed the snake.
Yeah.
So when we use these, Jared, we need to either move across to the reptile ones, or we need to make sure they're fully taped up and protected.
Yeah, that's what I do. I make sure they're so taped up so they don't go anywhere.
You're fine, Jared. So I think that works. So I think they last, what, 48 hours?
I think these ones do, yeah. You can get different ones that last different amounts.
So we were toying with our backup to our backup. Say the generator gave up the ghost, we've only got one generator. We're relying on that generator. It's a £200 generator looking after this collection. I was thinking to myself, what am I thinking? You know, I'm thinking to myself, that's why I've invested in a much better one. But we'll still keep the other one as a backup. So if one of them goes down, we can maintain temperature. So always have backup of backups. I think we've learned that in life. And this is another backup, is hand warmers that are put on the back of the rubs. Take them on. At least there is some heat for your snake for the next couple of days. Now there's an awful lot of snakes to do. You need 160 to be able to achieve that, Jared. And we've got 20 at the moment. So there is 30. So there's an argument that we just order a whole bunch and have them standing by. An awful lot of work. The better route is obviously to use replacement generator to do that, I think. But this is for people maybe that don't have generators, they have a small collection. Because I've also heard of people taking their snakes in bed with them and letting them cuddle up to them under their blankets.
Works if you got one or two, but
yeah,
160 snakes in bed doesn't sound too good.
Yeah, but one guy took a massive retook in as well. I was looking at some of the solutions on the web, and people were saying, look, they're in like minus conditions and they've got no heat. And literally, body heat could be the answer. But if you've got a big collection, you'll have to have a very tolerant family, and everyone would have to take a snake to bed with them. I'm not sure whether that would sit well with Mandy. I don't think she'd quite enjoy that one.
No, sure not.
But that's another possibility. Now you'll notice we've got blankets in here. Have you seen the blankets that we've put up here as well? So we brought in some blankets, and you know we were talking about there being drafts and cold spots, and the drafts and cold spots were often on the side and top of the racking system. So blankets are another way of insulating and giving you extra protection. So there's to consider as well. Right, Joe, how are we doing for time?
10 minutes left.
10 minutes. So let's just run through really quickly. I made some points on the information. I took some time yesterday to spend some time giving our feedback on the description of what we're going to do or what we could do better and the points that we should consider. So I think we've covered quite a few of them. I'll just pick up the ones we haven't covered. I think in the States they call power cuts outages, so there's a slightly different terminology used. So we've learnt so many experiences, we've decided to make a quick list on this video to help anyone else prepare for a similar problem. First, check your weather conditions each day and be alert to the threat of power cuts and outages days in advance, because it takes 2 or 3 days to get hold of a generator. It can take 2 or 3 days to get hold of some backup materials. So I think check the weather's key. Anticipate the storms. Now we had 100-mile-an-hour storms from, I think the storm was called Storm Arwen, and a lot of the country was been without power, in Scotland particularly, but it's affected us here down in the south. Secondly, check the wattage that you need in your facility to keep your snakes on heat. And that's the mistake we made. We didn't go through and work out how much wattage we need. So we went out and bought on a low budget basis about a year ago a generator that would just about do 1 heater in here, which wasn't enough on extreme cold conditions, so we got exposed there. And I've learned my lesson from that, and that's why I've invested in a much better one. So work out what you need. Also work out what you need for future growth. So if you're going to get more snakes, you might as well get a generator that gives you room for growth. The other thing is we've got a second freezer coming today. In fact, it's all being delivered. Mandy's got her new freezer. So we're taking the family freezer into here and having 2 freezers. So that will take some additional wattage. Kettles take an awful lot of wattage if you use a kettle to boil water or make a brew. So be prepared that you can use 3,000 watts on a kettle alone, Jared. Which, if we put that on to try and help with the humidity, you know, I was talking about that yesterday, that would have blown out the generator and blown out the ambient heat. So you've got to think carefully about when you put on. These fans take a little bit of wattage. The humidifier takes a little bit of wattage. The lights take wattage. The TV takes wattage. I mean, they all take wattage. So you've got to go around and actually work out what's the maximum wattage that I need in my facility. Match the power source to that and have an extra 10% to 20% more, so that if there is any problems, the generator can cope with it because it's got the facility to do so. Number 3, buy or have easy access to a reliable backup generator that will match the power you need to keep your snakes at the right temperature, 82 to 88 degrees or 27 to 30 degrees if possible. So you keep them at that level. Number 4, have backup hand warmers, blankets and insulation material for your racks and rubs in case your generator is insufficient or you run out of fuel or your incubator gives up the ghost. 5th, get your snakes as quickly as you can and contact your power company to let them know that you're a priority to be able to keep your snakes alive. Communication is the key, and I made several calls, couldn't get through, it was so busy. And eventually Jad and I came down here to just check on them, and then as we were doing some extra blanket controls and extra support, the lights started to flicker on, didn't they? And we saw everything, all the thermostats and all the started kicking on. We were so relieved, weren't we, Jad? But we didn't switch off the generator at that point, did we? And the reason why we didn't is because we've seen...
Happened to me last time.
Yeah, the power companies start to fix a problem and then they realise it's not fixed, it goes off. So we kept the generator going for a little bit longer until everything was working effectively. 6. Avoid opening doors, drawers and rubs or vivs or moving snakes unless the temps are dropping fast below 60 degrees Fahrenheit or 15 degrees Celsius. It may be better to transfer them into a friend's home or consider keeping them warm in your car until help arrives. Now that may not be practical for a big collection, but it just dawned on me that we've got heating in our cars as well. So you could always, you know, put them in these boxes that we keep. There's a good reason why these boxes are being kept. You know, I was kind of thinking to myself, Jared, let's get them out of the facility. They clutter the facility, but in actual fact, they've helped us, and they would help us with, if we had to put our snakes in mass protection, we could use these hand warmers and put them in these insulation boxes to keep the heat in, and that may be another way of solving the problem as well. 7. If all else fails, then use body heat and blankets. Ask friends and family members to help if possible. I think we've covered that one. 8. Consider using solar panels and reliable batteries as backup. Always use a reliable, qualified electrician to install your system. An automatic generator or battery switch overs can be built into your home or facility that can take care of the issue for you. So that's what I was saying. We had an electrician that was going to do all this for us. Unfortunately, during COVID, he was just too pressed and couldn't get that finished. And we've got it a little bit half done. But I think it's now focused on getting him back and getting that done. So it's one switch, converts everything over. Number 9, avoid feeding your snakes during power cuts. Now, we were lucky, Jared, you were at a wedding. We were so lucky with this. And that's why our snakes have bounced back so quickly, because they've been fasting for nearly 10 days now. So that's cool. And then just wrapping up, number 10, if you're using a fogger, remember to restore humidity to a minimum of 50% when temps are back on. Cold, wet conditions can lead to RI, so make sure everything's dry before you do that. 11, if you're using an extension lead, make sure that it has a high enough wattage capacity that matches your heaters. Number 12, regularly check the backup power is working and that the snakes are okay. So we came in and out quite regularly, didn't we? Yeah, we didn't leave it to chance. 13, do not place the generator too close to the window or the facility to avoid fumes getting into the snake's house. We had to drop it back, didn't we, Jared? Because we started to smell fumes in here and we thought, no, that's not good. 14, use technology to help you. Google cameras and sensors can feed to your phone to alert you of your loss, and we've got that, haven't we, Jared?
Yeah.
15, underfloor heating and good insulation on your facility when you build and buy will buy you a little bit more time, and we wish we did that. Now that leads us on to a couple of IG messages, Jared, what we've had. Now one of our viewers has sent us a really kind message, Jared. Do you want to just share that with us?
Yeah.
And it's to do with these rubs. You know, we're not using these rubs at the bottom because there's colder conditions. He's got a trick because he had a similar problem, but he's got a trick he was saying that can solve the problem.
Yeah, he said he had the same thing.
And who was it that sent the message?
Royal BP.
Royal BP, yeah.
And they said they had the same problem, and he cut out a piece of foil insulation and put it under the racks at the bottom of the tubs, and now they're the same temperature as the ones above.
Okay, so that's worth trying, Jared. Do you want to take care of that and give that a go?
Yeah.
So we'd like to thank Royal Boars?
Royal BP.
Royal BP. Thank you so much for your idea, and it works for you, so hopefully it worked for us. That will free up another 6 rubs for us, which would be great. And the other message is from Joe.
Tully's Out-Regis Royals.
And what's he given us to
He
say?
just told us how he did his intro to his film and gave us a link to try and get one done ourselves. So watch this space.
Thank you very much, Joe. We love your intro. We think it's brilliant. And I think the next video we will give a shout out to one of our new subscribers, and we've subscribed to his channel. And I just want to thank everyone for the love and support you've given us over this very challenging time. Of course, Jared and I had very little sleep, so we might look a little bit more tired than usual today, but we're quite looking forward to getting some decent sleep ourselves and catching up ourselves. But everything is going fine here. Just wanted to send some love to you guys. Thank you so much for subscribing to our channel, and we shall see you tomorrow. Bye bye for now.